Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Ekow Essuman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 380 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Ekow Essuman. I'm joined as ever by former heavyweight world title challenger Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing this week, my man?
I'm doing good, my man. How about you?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. Always good when speaking with you. We're going to dive straight into the review part of the show. I think there's just two cards to review. Let's start with this one here. It was the big one. It was the main one of the weekend. We're going to start with the undercard. Where shall we start on the undercard, though? I think we're going to start with this one here. Frazer Clarke, now 5-0. He was able to beat Kevin Espindola, who's now 7-7. Frazer Clarke becomes the first man to actually stop Espindola, who retired on his stall at the end of 4 rounds. He didn't come out for round 5 of a scheduled 6-rounder there. Yeah, I mean, Espindola, really tough guy, generally. I noticed that he'd actually put 42 pounds on since July, so I don't know what happened there. Maybe he's done more eating than training since his last meaningful fight, but yeah, I mean, you know, awful feat. He just came pretty much to lie on the ropes. Clarke was just hitting him at free will. He was trying to counter off the ropes here and there with a left hook, but had little success, Espindola. And he hurt his hand in the second round, and to be honest, he did well to actually complete 4 rounds, and yeah, he decided to quit on his stall after the 4th. Shame, really, because he only needed, like I say, to just complete those 2 extra rounds, and he would have kept his 0% stoppage loss record intact. But no, he stopped, like I say, for the first time. You know, it wasn't really a win to remember for Frazer Clarke. Obviously, he's been moaning about his competition. They haven't been good enough, and I think he wanted to step up, and this was not it, to be honest. He just lied, like I say, on the ropes like a punching bag. And yeah, Frazer Clarke to win on points was just about 3-1, which looked extremely likely if he didn't hurt his hand. So it was a bit of a shame there. But there was also some good money on the fight to go over 3.5 rounds. I think you could double your money there, and yeah, it did go over 3.5 rounds. Elsewhere on the card, Joseph Parker. Oh boy, cost me some money this one, to be honest with you. Now 31-3, a unanimous decision over 10 rounds against Jack Massey, who's now 20-2. Massey deducted a point in round 8 for holding. I'm not sure how to approach this, really. I mean, obviously, you know, Joseph Parker was on the show 2-3 weeks ago. Good friend of the show is Parker. But it was a terrible performance, you know. It's a world level heavyweight in with a British level cruiserweight, and even though Parker won every round, Massey for me was more impressive just for the fact that he was able to go 10 rounds with a former heavyweight world champion. I'm hoping that Massey does get a big fight after this, because I think he is a more than capable fighter, starved really of any good opportunities, hence why we saw him up here at heavyweight. And I'd actually heard a rumour that he was doing scaffolding, you know, in the build up to this fight, trying to make money. So I just cannot believe that he actually went a distance with Parker. But yeah, he's got a lot of ability, I think, Jack Massey, but obviously he's had quite a lot of bad luck. And like I say, Parker wasn't impressive at all. He decided to only really let his hands go in round 10. His feet were so slow, Joseph Parker. He wasn't cutting off the ring. He was actually being backed up a lot in the fight as well, which is crazy. But yeah, Massey can hold his head high. Parker, not looking forward to seeing him anytime soon after that display. And like I say, I'm a huge Parker fan. I really like Parker. I love Parker, to be honest with you, but it was a terrible look for him. And yeah, you've got to just, you know, think, what would the other top heavyweights in the division, what would they have done to, or what would they have and should they have done to Massey? No disrespect to Massey, of course, but he had no right going the distance and actually boxing fairly decent in spells against Joseph Parker. Like I say, I think he lost probably every round, but he did have moments in there, and that was just awful for Parker there. And I was super sure Parker would knock him out. I could not see any other outcome, but I was wrong there, and it cost me. Elsewhere on the card, let's go to another undercard fight. Ekow Essuman now 19-0, a majority decision over 12 rounds against Chris Kongo, now 14-2. It was for the Commonwealth, the IBF European, the WBC International, and the British welterweight titles. Essuman, like I say, with the win. Really good fight. I mean, Kongo came out and boxed really well in the first few rounds. Essuman's pressure, though, was so relentless. He fought his way back into the fight. I think he hurt Kongo during one of the mid-rounds. That was the first time he'd hurt him, and he certainly badly hurt him in the final round. Essuman made it a really entertaining fight, and I think both men will learn from it. It was a really close fight. It probably could have gone either way, but like I say, Essuman did get the win. I expected him to slightly. I think we had, Michael McKinson on last week's show. He thought that Essuman could perhaps win by stoppage late on. It came close, I guess, maybe. But credit to Kongo as well, I do want to say, for going 12 rounds, I believe, for the first time there. But good fight, like I say, really close. Could have gone either way. Elsewhere on that card, Richard Riakporhe now 16-0, a TKO for him in round 4 against Krzysztof Glowacki, former WBO Cruiserweight World Champion, now 32-4. Certainly at the very end of his career. I said it was a fight I didn't really want to touch in terms of betting and stuff, because I felt that the fight, could go many ways. I mean, obviously I said Riakporhe was stepping up to a level he'd never been near, to be honest with you. And Glowacki, despite one time being one of the best fighters in the world at his weight, being a former world champion, going the distance with Usyk, he's not the same fighter. And just on fight day, I received some information that actually the camp for Glowacki couldn't have gone any worse, and he was pretty much just turning up, just for the payday. So I heard that last minute kind of thing, and I expected from that point onwards, it was a really credible source as well, from that point onwards, that we'd probably see a stoppage for Riakporhe, probably quite early, and that is what happened. Managed to get him out, like I say, in round 4. Glowacki did have a good go in round 1 and 2 and that, but Riakporhe, too young, too fresh, too strong, huge as well, looked massive against Glowacki, and obviously punches incredibly hard. I think that's now, slightly more proof that he is a big puncher. I think that's the quickest he's ever been knocked out as well, Glowacki. So like I say, it echoes what I was saying. He is very much at the end. I guess that's probably a decision for him to make, but he could walk away. I think that's enough, really. We don't need to see him again. But then again, because he is a former world champion, he will probably still get a couple of paydays if he chooses to carry on. But I think he should probably think about hanging them up at least. Elsewhere on the card, what have we done now? We've done Parker, Clark, Ekow Essuman and Riakporhe. That leaves nothing else but the main event. Chris Eubank Jr. now 32-3. A TKO loss in round 4 against Liam Smith. No one really saw this coming. 32-4 with a draw. 33-3 with a draw, I should say, Liam Smith. When I say no one saw it coming, I mean some people backed Liam Smith to win on points, but no one expected an early knockout for Liam Smith. And if there was going to be an early knockout, I think 99% of people would have said it would have been Chris Eubank Jr. to get it. Down twice, Eubank, in the 4th round prior to the referee finally stopping it. But no, it was a humongous shock. It really was. Like I say, there was a few shocks on the card. Parker going the distance. Fraser Clark, not going the distance when I expected him to. Not as big an upset, but this here was, probably the topper of all of them. I think it was about 11-1 for the KO for Smith to get the KO, and that's at any point in the fight. But to get him for the 4th round KO or KO within 4 rounds, I can't even imagine what the price would have been on that. But yeah, it would have been huge odds. It was the least predicted outcome. Obviously, the most likely outcome in the eyes of the bookies was that Eubank would win on points. Then I think it was maybe Eubank stoppage, and then Liam Smith points, and then Liam Smith knockout. Like I say, huge, the price on that. The first couple of rounds were kind of nip and tuck. Some people gave them both to Smith, some people gave them both to Eubank. They were very arguable rounds. I felt Eubank had a really good third round. I think everyone agrees with that one. You know, he was firing out a nice quick jab. He was landing countless numbers of his signature uppercuts as well. They were nice to see. And Smith was having moments, but I felt Eubank certainly won that third round. It was the easiest of the 3 rounds to score through that first 3. And then, yeah, like I say, in round 4, we get into round 4, Smith catches Eubank in the corner and just let his hands go, and he hurt Eubank with about 4 or 5 shots. It was difficult. I haven't seen many replays. It was difficult to know which one did the real damage, but obviously down Eubank went, like I say, got straight back up immediately, showing off that inexperience. He didn't take a count on the floor, got straight back up straight away. No surprise at all. Tried to blame the floor, I think, for being slippery. He was falling forward. The referee probably should have called it off right then and there. His legs were all over the place. Wasn't fooling anyone saying that he'd slipped. Certainly not Liam Smith either. He knows that he was certainly hurt. And yeah, the referee let him continue, and literally the first punch I think was a huge right hand by Smith. Smith goes in for the kill at that point. Eubank goes down again. Again gets up very unsteadily, and that time the referee does finally wave it off. But yeah, like I say, huge shock. The Eubank chin didn't hold up, and the Smith power was, I think, underestimated. Just like that, the Eubank name, of course, takes a significant hit. You look back at him, in the build-up saying he only needed to be 60% to win, or it might have even been 50% to win. He was wearing the KFC jacket. He was sprinkling salt on a piece of steak, like some version of Salt Bay in Brighton. And you think back to those moments when someone loses in this fashion. You go back to the build-up and you remember these things that were maybe funny, slightly comical at the time, but now they look really idiotic and quite embarrassing, I think, for Eubank, who's an extremely proud man. And, I think there's a rematch clause. I've heard rumours already that Eubank does want to activate that clause and may have already activated the clause. But yeah, I've got to say it again, Eddie, it's a controversial statement, but for me, Chris Eubank Jr. has lost every big fight of his career, aside from when he beat James DeGale, who was finished at that point. Liam Smith as well does something that, Billy Joe Saunders couldn't do, Groves couldn't do, much bigger men than him, and he's, like I say, significantly smaller, and doesn't get the credit that those other fighters that I just mentioned there get as well. Doesn't get the credit of a George Groves or a Billy Joe Saunders. And yeah, I just wanted to add, he may have grey hairs, but this man, as I said on last week's show, I think is in his prime. I highlighted the excellent form he's been in of recent times, and this is further proof that I think that is the case. I think he deserves another world title shot off the back of that. It was an amazing win for Smith. I'm sure you saw the fight. What did you make of it?
Yeah, 100%. I think I might have underestimated him myself a little bit, and I never really do that. And it's not so much that I underestimated his ability. I just maybe overestimated what Eubank was bringing. But then again, when I was watching it, I thought Eubank was doing all right. I think the style that they've been working on and him being, boxing, using the jab, especially that third round, like you mentioned, Joe, he looked actually pretty sharp. He was doing some good things. I think he got a little too, I think when he started to, seem like he was going to gain a little bit of control, with that third round and came out. And I think he got a little bit too confident in his success the previous round before, especially at the end. And his hand was a little too low, got caught in a corner in a weird spot, and just wasn't being defensively responsible. And Liam, like I said, Liam Smith, his power must be a lot more than what people really give it credit for, because never really have we really seen Chris Eubank like that, hurt or, going anywhere. And most of us, thought that, if some of the guys that was hitting on him before, like you said, much bigger guys, speaking of the guys he was in the ring with. And it's crazy that of all those guys, this one is to do it. So you got to give credit where it's due and say that Liam Smith is a much bigger player. And like you said, he might have had a gray hair, but he's showing like he got, like he's primed right now. But I honestly like what Eubank was doing in the fight, aside from the defensive responsibility, especially at the end when he got caught with the shots. But Liam Smith proved to be that barrage was a little too much at that time. I mean, obviously that can happen. It's boxing, so I can see with him wanting that rematch clause and activating it right away. It's probably a good idea. He's got to go back in and try to right that wrong if he's gonna have any more success in his career. I mean, don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean that he won't be able to do something special later on, even after this loss, without a rematch clause. But it just looks so much better if he goes back in and tries to, effectively change what has happened in this past fight. Not saying change it; it's not going to change it, but at least get a win and maybe go do a trilogy or something like that with this. Because I mean, obviously the way the fight's going, the way the fight was going, he was looking good. But like I said, I think the defensive responsibility in the fourth round, obviously, after that success he had in the third was probably obviously where he went wrong. But I like the fight. If they fought again, I would definitely want to watch it again. And they're both good quality guys, good UK guys. And like I said, I would love to see it again.
Yeah, and a fun fact that you probably forgot, Eddie, as well, but obviously for those that wouldn't know, they certainly wouldn't know, someone runs your Twitter page half the time and pretty much tweets their own thoughts on there. And I remember there was an occasion where you, or not necessarily you, but your Twitter page had beef with Liam Smith. And it was actually me who squashed it between your unknowing self and Liam Smith having to say that it wasn't actually you tweeted that. But there's a fun fact. Oh. He was calling you all kinds of names, and I was like, no, it's not really him tweeting.
And what's funny about that? I actually went and worked with those guys. I worked with Paul. I worked with Callum, if I'm not mistaken, before. I think I worked with Callum. I want to say I might have worked with Liam. I'm not sure. I can't remember, but I was over at their gym. Remember when we was in Bolton? We went there a few times, and I sparred with those guys. And I'm sparred with anybody, and even 147 on up. I don't really, it didn't really matter. I wasn't trying to knock guys out, like that. But I was I'm a bigger guy. But they couldn't have been gooder. Oh, that was so bad. They couldn't have been better people. They seemed, like great. I liked Paul. Paul was sparred well. It was, it was nice. It was a nice situation. I didn't have any issues with the guys. So, how that happened was just kind of so weird that I had something. I guess you would have thought I had something against them, but obviously I didn't. Thank you, Joe, for squashing that beef.
Any erratic tweets you see on Eddie's Twitter certainly wasn't sent from him. Okay, moving on to the other card at the Casino Miami Jai Alai in Miami, Florida over here. It was a Don King Productions card. The main event, Jonathan Guidry, now 19-1 with 2 draws, a unanimous decision win for him over 10 rounds against Bermain Stavern, 25-6 with a draw now. Didn't see a second of the fight. Quite amazed that it actually went 10 rounds, to be honest with you. If you did watch the fight, inform me. Let me know what happened. Was it a good fight? I can't imagine it would have been a good fight, but yeah, Bermain Stavern going 10 rounds, yeah, that's mad. I don't think he's been the distance since his last win, which of course we touched on was back in 2015. Amazing, man. Amazing that it's gone the distance there. I tell you what, I couldn't see that one going the distance at all. I think Bermain, like I say, has been knocked out in a bunch of his last fights. Okay, that is it though for the review part of the show. We've flown through it as quick as possible. The final thing for me to do in this part is to welcome this week's special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former WBO Global Welterweight Champion. It is, of course, Bermondsey's very own Mr. Chris Kongo. Chris, welcome to the show, my man.
Yes. How are you, brother?
All good, my man. Good now I'm speaking with you. So, Chris, this is the first time we've had you on, so welcome, like I say. I want to go back to the early parts of your career. Obviously, you turned pro August 2016. And looking back now, you knocked out a few really, really tough journeymen early on. Most of the time, even knocking them out in just one round. You couldn't really have made a bigger splash turning pro.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of people try to say that obviously because I was a good fighter, I'm better off getting the rounds in. So they were the kind of opponents that we thought would give us the rounds, but didn't, And it just happened so quicker in some of the fights, man. So what can I say?
Yeah, I mean, brilliant. Like I say, stopping really durable guys and to get them out in a round is very impressive. One really durable guy that you did box, though, is one of my favourite journeymen of all time, the infamous William Warburton. Obviously, you didn't get him out, but tell me what those two fights were like against him. Tough guy.
They were good, man. Good experiences. I think the first one, the first time he come, he actually just sort of played the game. It was a 4-rounder and stuff. And then the second time, he actually brought it to me, took it to me, brought it, gave it his all, but still wasn't good enough to beat me. But he's definitely. I believe that if he wanted to box properly, he would actually beat some of these guys that are active now. So very tough opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously further down the line, I'd say your breakout win was that Luther Clay fight in Eddie's back garden. You got the TKO in round 9 over Clay, who by many within boxing circles was highly regarded, tipped to do big things in the sport. Sadly hasn't boxed since. But let's revisit that fight, Chris. A really good fight while it lasted. And yeah, your breakout win, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. I think that fight, like I said, mentally I wasn't quite there. I was there, but I wasn't quite there. Everything was new to me. He was the first active opponent I had fought. In terms of a opponent that was really active and was a champion. So it was quite weird. But as the rounds went on, I started getting back to myself a bit, and then in round 9, I ended up knocking him out.
Yeah, it was a great win. Like I say, Luther Clay by many tipped to do big things. After that fight was when you boarded the plane to Gibraltar for the McKinson fight. Obviously, you lost your O here. We had McKinson on last week's podcast. He was saying the knockdown was really more of a balance thing. But talk me through that fight, Chris. Going into it, McKinson was giving you high praise, saying that he felt domestically you were the most dangerous welterweight in the country.
Yeah, therefore, going into it, I had a great camp and probably one of my greatest camps and stuff. But as I was in the ring, it was a lot different. Obviously, I had sparred him before, but I wanted him to play into my game. But obviously, that didn't work. And I lost the fight, bro.
Yeah. And obviously you came back with a win against Kelvin Dotel. You boxed another super tough guy after that, Sebastian Formella. I know you wanted a stoppage against Formella. You was a bit disappointed, I remember, not to get it. But again, a really tough guy. Obviously mixed it at world level against Porter and had never been stopped. Can you look back now and appreciate that win? It was a good win, I think, in my eyes.
Yeah, definitely. It was a good win, but not up to the standard that I wanted it to be. I believe that with an extra round or two, I definitely would have got him out of there. But it's all part of a learning curve, isn't it? And to be honest, I always say this: I'm probably the welterweight in the division with the least experience, but I'm still fighting these guys, and this is what I'm in the sport for.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Chris, because obviously, you've been a pro now just over 6 years. And I think there was 1 year, I believe, what was it? I think it was 2017. Well, I think it was 2017 when you were very, very, very active. But then after that, you have been quite inactive. I mean, obviously, just boxing the once in 2019, once in 2020, once in 2021. Has this been, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? But like a bad thing in your career is that hasn't helped you? I'm guessing.
100%. You know what they say, that inactivity is a boxer's worst enemy. And all my career I've always wanted to be active, but a lot of things played a part. And yeah, man, what can I say, bro? Just gotta move on from that now.
Okay, and obviously you boxed on the weekend against Ekow Essuman. That's the main reason we have you on. It was on that Eubank Smith undercard. Most people saw the fight as a true 50-50 fight going into it. A lot of people were sat on the fence. In all honesty, the fight proved how closely matched you both were. It could have gone either way. You started brilliantly. His pressure got him back into it. You had a couple decent rounds late on as well, which I don't think many people give you credit for. He seemingly hurt you once or twice in the fight. I could be wrong. Talk me through it, Chris.
It was a good fight. It was a good fight. A fight that I want to run back. Just like you said, bro. I was cruising through the early rounds. He come on strong in the mid rounds, but the mid and late rounds. But I definitely had a few late rounds as well. I don't know what the judges were seeing, but if you do watch the fight back with no commentary and nothing to twist your mind a bit, you actually see that I was up in the fight by at least 2-3 rounds, I believe. And yeah, what can I say, man? I just want to run that back for sure. That one is worth running back.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great fight. Like I say, could have gone either way for me. So it sounds like you have watched it back, possibly on mute. Have you, officially scored it, Chris?
Yeah, I officially scored it 7-5.
7-5
really.
For yourself, okay.
And that's more than enough for me to win a fight. A lot of people say, oh, it's a bit closer than that. And that a fight like that is definitely worth a rematch. Especially because a lot of people thought it was close, and a lot of people actually thought I won. And yeah, I mean, if it was a complete shutout, then there's no point of a rematch, is there? It was a complete shutout. So everybody wants to see it. It was probably the best fight on the card that night. And yeah, I'm ready to run that back for sure because I believe I won. Yeah,
no, I think, as you say, no one can say they don't want to see it again. It was a great fight. Yeah, so tell me, Chris, how hurt at all were you during the fight? I think he had 2 moments where it looked like he'd stunned you, but you were in there. So tell me.
Yeah, I was in there. To be honest, I was only really buzzed at one point. I wouldn't say hurt. Hurt is the wrong word. I would say I was buzzed a bit. Probably once when I was on the ropes. I think if you look at the last round, I got hit with a big right hand. What people don't notice is I actually come back and started firing back. So if I was really hurt, the ref would have been having a look. Do you get what I'm saying? A lot of people, when they're hurt, you can tell by their body language. They don't seem to throw punches back. They kind of look for their way out. But for me, he hit me with a good shot. That's it. I rode the shot and come back, started firing back. I hit him with some good shots after that too. So yeah, man, I was never really hurt bad at any moment in the fight, but I was buzzed at just one moment in the fight, and then it was there. You can see, innit?
Okay. And like I say, we had Michael McKinson on the podcast last week. He certainly didn't sit on the fence with his prediction. His prediction was he thought Essuman would get a late stoppage, which was a bit shocking to hear. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, he's entitled to his opinion, you know. I knew Essuman come with this break and break it. He didn't break nothing, bro. You know what I mean? He didn't break me. If he broke me, I wouldn't be standing. I wouldn't be standing there after the 12th round, you know. The fight probably would have been stopped if he broke me. But that's the worst thing about it. He didn't. And I kept fighting back. So with McKinsey's opinion, that's his opinion, isn't it? You know what I mean? Who cares about that? Only he'll care about his own. So, yeah, I don't care about that. That don't mean nothing to me.
Yeah, and I think obviously if he would have broke you, you wouldn't be sat here asking for the rematch. I want to ask you as well, Chris. I guess you've kind of answered it a little bit, but I was going to ask what's kind of next for you. I know it's obviously early. I wanted to know if in your mind you already maybe had a next step in terms of a next fight, but it sounds like the Essuman fight's all you're thinking about, the Essuman rematch.
Yeah, 100%. And one thing that I noticed was good is that with that fight, my stock never went down. It only went up because it was such a great fight. I showed that I have a good chin. I got hit with some big shots in there. I took some shots. But obviously, as they say, the best chin is the one that never gets hit. So I shouldn't really be happy about that. In terms of what's actually next, that's for me to go back with my team and speak to Sky, see what they say. But they were pretty impressed with the performance and impressed with my improvements that I'd made. And hoping to get out sooner than later, you know.
Yeah, for sure, man. Absolutely. And I'm coming down to my last 3 questions. These are kind of about different fights. I wanted to get your reaction to Eubank Smith. Did you get out in time to sit ringside and watch it?
No, but I watched it back as soon as I got back home. I thought Chris was doing well, you know. I think Chris should have went back to his old self instead of trying to box on the back foot. He should have went on the front foot. But he got caught with a good shot, man. And it happens, you know. It happens. It's all part of the game.
And obviously, as we know, you're at welterweight, so I must say, I think the whole world agrees that the 2 best welterweights in the world are Spence and Crawford. Are you a Spence man or a Crawford man? Who wins that fight if they actually fight?
I'm a Crawford man.
So
I'm a Crawford man. The guy lives in the gym, always working, similar to me, you know. And he's just versatile. He's an all-rounded fighter. Box, fight, southpaw, orthodox, front foot, back foot. With him, you just can't get anything wrong. You know, he's just that complete fighter.
Yeah, I'm a Crawford man as well. We hopefully will see the fight maybe this year. Hopefully, fingers crossed. And I wanted to get your prediction as well for this weekend, Chris. Beterbiev, Yarde, someone surely going to sleep in that fight. How do you see it going?
For sure. Boy, this is a great fight, man. It's a great fight. Of course, I'm backing the home fighter, Anthony Yarde, and I can only see it going one way, and it's a knockout. Probably within 1 to 5, I got it. So I think if it goes past that, then probably Beterbiev will come on strong as he has done previously. But I got Yarde 1 to 5.
Oh, I'd love to see that happen. Fingers crossed, man. We definitely want to see Yarde bring it back. And just finally, before we let you go, Chris, if you've got any closing words to the listeners, if you want to say absolutely anything at all, then say it. But I do want to say as well, please give your social media handles so people can follow you if they're not already following. And close with any message you want. You want to thank sponsors? Take it away, my man. Anything you want.
Yes, I just want to say for all the listeners, they can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at 2SlickChris, the number 2 and SlickChris. And also, thanks to all my supporters, man. I've gained a lot of supporters and fans over the last week or so due to this fight being such a big event. And man, just continue to follow the journey because it's not over. Even though it was a loss, it was great fight, and that's what I'm looking to bring in the UK welterweight division. You know, big fights, and hopefully you get to see the part 2 of that. And thank you guys, man.
No problem at all. Listen, to everyone, please go and give Chris a follow. I think the best is truly yet to come. Listen, Chris, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you for your time. I wish you all the best in your comeback. Hopefully we see that rematch with Essuman, and we'll speak again soon, I'm sure.
For sure. Thank you, brother.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. 2 pieces of news to mention. One piece we're going to start with here is that friend of the show, Mario Barrios, has got his next fight booked in. It's going to be on the undercard of Ray Vargas and Oshaki Foster. Obviously, they're fighting there for the WBC Super Featherweight World title. That's going to be on... when is it? I think it's February 11th in San Antonio, Texas. So it's great to see Mario Barrios, a local fighter, on that card. He gets in with Giovanni Santiago, who of course is a former opponent of Adrian Broner, so all the best there to Mario Barrios. Probably get him on the show sometime soon, hopefully before the fight. It's not long to go now really to the fight. The other piece of news is that it's just been announced literally today as well. Brilliant fight, Eddie. I'm going to come to you straight away. It was rumoured for a while. We said it was one of the best fights that can be made at 168, and it is finally happening. We're going to see it unfold on March the 25th at... I'm not sure if they've announced the venue. Yeah, no, it is. It's going to be at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas. We're going to see David Benavidez, Caleb Plant, baby. Talk to me, Eddie.
That is a hell of a fight. Oh, man, you know what's funny? I was having a conversation with somebody recently about that fight. I was anticipating that it was going to be made. I was kind of penciling it in my mind. It at some point was going to happen soon. Nice that it's going to be in March. That's kind of soon. But I'm pretty sure the guys already knew about it. It was being rumored. It was probably just some negotiations they had to go through in order to, get through that.
There you go.
They
so
probably
it's a few days before your birthday, so there's a perfect present there from your wife to you. Take you to Vegas, get you in the fight. Brilliant.
Hey, I'm gonna hit that around her now. Nah, but that would be cool. I would love that. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe I get on the undercard. No, but anyway, it's a hell of a fight. I mean, I really like Caleb Plant's ability and his skill, his sharpness, his IQ, all of those things. He got a lot of great qualities, man. A lot to like there. But David Benavidez he's all around special. He's obviously I don't know. I think they're about the same size, right? David Benavidez was 6'1", 6'2", maybe something like that, if I'm not mistaken, at super middle.
I can't remember his height, but Benavidez is big for that weight, massive for that weight.
Yeah, and that's what I figured. He's big. He's aggressive, punches in combination, good speed, just tough. That's gonna be a hell of a fight, rough fight. I think it's hard for me to pick against Benavidez. I just can't do it. But I really like Caleb Plant. I really like what he brings to the table. Is just his overall ability. He's a special talent. It's just I don't know. That's why this fight is such a good fight. That's why it's such a good fight to see. It's just I'm gonna have to go David Benavidez, and I said this. It's just I haven't seen him beat or hurt, and the only thing I can take from in a fight like this is watching Caleb Plant, with Canelo and of course, seeing him in other fights. I mean, he's like I said, he's looked great in most of his fights, and that I've seen, especially recent. But I haven't seen Benavidez pushed like that or beat like that, and he's been in there with some guys. But I just think I got to give up Benavidez the upper hand at this point. Like you said, he's big for the weight, strong, powerful, aggressive. I don't know, man. It's going to be a tough one for Caleb Plant. I think he's going to be times he's going to have his moments, I believe. But I think at the end of the day, I'm going to have to go Benavidez at this point.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a very, very thrilling encounter. Benavidez gets a chance here to really make a statement against a marquee name in the division, which is something that people criticize him for. You know, he hasn't had the big fights. I mean, he's calling everyone out, but for whatever reason, the fights aren't getting made. I don't think it's necessarily his fault. I think that, you know, no one would want to fight him. Why would you want to fight him? He's a real problem. I actually think he's a very special fighter. Obviously, one of the young guns still. I think he's still, what's he about? He's definitely not. He's about 26 or something like that, I believe. Maybe even slightly younger. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, one of the young guns in comparison with the other guys, like the Callum Smiths, like the Caleb Plants, like the Billy Joe Saunders, obviously the Golovkins, the Canelos. He's younger than all those guys. And yeah, it's like I say, a chance for him to make a statement against a really good, proven fighter in Caleb Plant, who, by the way, is in phenomenal form. Obviously, last time out, almost decapitating Anthony Durrell in what was one of the best knockouts of the entire year. So he's in fine form as well. That's why it's such a brilliant fight. Made a best man win. Like I say, both guys been on the show in the past. Got a huge soft spot for Caleb Plant. Benavidez I probably get on with better than I do Plant, to be honest with you. But yeah, it'd be good to get one of them, or if not both of them, on the show before their fight comes up. But it's a great fight there for March 25th. It really is a fantastic fight to be made early on in the year between truly two of the best fighters at 168. That's the only thing that people say about Benavidez. Those Benavidez haters, they say his resume is so thin. He hasn't boxed the right fights. He hasn't, boxed the big names. This is a step in the right direction. If he can get a good statement win against Caleb Plant, that is gonna send shockwaves through the division, and it's gonna shut a lot of people up, actually, if he wins in good fashion. I cannot wait for the fight. It's gonna be epic. Moving on now to the preview part of the show. We're gonna start here with this one. It takes place tomorrow at the Quiet Cannon Country Club, which I think you have to say quietly. It goes down in California. It's gonna be on a TV channel, I think, called USA UFC Fight Pass, whatever that is. But anyway, one fight to mention. It's top of the bill for the WBC Continental America's Super Welterweight title. Over 10 rounds. We've got Sergei Bohachuk, the Ukrainian fighter based in LA these days, 21-1. Never been the distance. He's got 21 KO wins and 1 KO loss. So always in exciting fights. I remember when he lost his O when he stepped up against, it's testing me now, against Brian Adams, the singer, Brandon Adams. So he lost his O to him, got knocked out by him. Come back with a couple decent wins since then, by the way, but gets in with Nathaniel Gallimore, who is 22-6 with a draw. And Gallimore can punch as well, and Gallimore is quite tough. He's pretty much been in with all the big names, really, at 154. Julian J. Rock Williams, Patrick Teixeira, Erickson Lubin, Sebastian Fundora. Only been stopped once, despite getting in with all of those guys. Been in there with Jason Rosario as well, knocked him out. So he's been in with all the top guys, really, but he's just kind of like, I guess, a bit of a gatekeeper. He's not really good enough to be a world champion, but he's mixed it with everyone, only been stopped by just one of them. So I think it's a really, really interesting fight, because if you can't get past this guy, then you're in a lot of trouble, and I think we're going to know for real that Bohachuk's ceiling isn't as high as what we maybe once thought it was when he was about 18-0 with 18 KOs, and no one could get past about 6 rounds with him. He was just blowing everyone out. He was so exciting. I think he was with Tom Loeffler. He may still be with him, and there was a lot of hype there. I think he was learning to speak English, or at least tweet in English and stuff, and he was interacting with his fans. It was all going really well till he got knocked out. But this is a fight here that I think is going to tell us a hell of a lot about the guy, because if he can knock out Gallimore, it's a statement. If he can beat Gallimore on points, I think it's a mini statement, because you don't beat this guy unless you're a top guy. But if Gallimore causes an upset, which wouldn't be a shock, to be totally honest, then Yeah, he's back to square one because he's been rebuilding since that loss there to Brandon Adams. So it's going to be interesting. I actually wonder what the price is on Gallimore to get the stoppage because, like I say, he can actually punch as well. Really interesting fight, I think. I think Tom Loeffler is still involved with Bohachuk, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, all the best there to those guys. Tom Loeffler, friend of the show. Moving out now to the Castleton Banquet and Convention Centre in New Hampshire, USA over here. Otto Wallin, 24-1, lives in the US these days. He's in a keep busy fight, but I'm going to mention it anyway. He gets in with a guy called Helaman Olguin, who is 9-4 with a draw. That's over 8 rounds there. I feel for Otto Wallin. Was supposed to get the Dillian White fight, and obviously didn't get it. Dillian White pulled out. I can't even remember what reason was given now, but it's just kind of like had such a stop-start career since the Fury loss, and we know that obviously he cut Fury in that fight, and you know we've seen fights stopped on much less bad cuts than that, and I thought he could push on from after that and get a big fight, but he hasn't, and that was years ago now, man, when Wallin fought Fury, and obviously Wallin's just getting older, still hasn't racked up another loss since then. That's his only loss. He did pick up a couple decent wins, didn't he? In the US, I think he beat Dominic Brazil, if my memory serves me right. But I think there's more he can give to the heavyweight division. I think actually he gives a hell of a lot of guys problems at the very top, and unfortunately for whatever reason the fights just haven't been happening. So all the best to him, and I hope he can get a big fight real soon. And now the final card to mention, it goes down at the Wembley Arena. Oh, I thought it was the O2 Arena. My apologies, it's the Wembley Arena. Wow, okay. Right, that's thrown me off a little bit, but it's going to be live on BT Sport here in the UK. Let's start with the undercard. We've got an 18-year-old heavyweight who's turning pro, who everyone's saying, over here at least, that this guy is going to attempt to try to win a world title quicker than Mike Tyson and break that record. He's 18 years of age. Moses Itauma in a 4-rounder here on his pro debut against 2-1 Marcel Bode. The story behind Moses Itauma is that he's pretty much sparred every top heavyweight in the UK, and I'm not entirely sure if he's sparred Fury, but I know he's sparred, I believe, like Joshua, Joyce, Dubois, all those guys, and I think he's been sparring them since he was about 15. Like, he'd come to the gym in his school clothes, take them off, quickly put some boxing shoes on, and literally get the better of most of the top guys in the country. So there's huge promise with this guy here, and it's a debut not to miss. I wonder if he's going to end up with a TV slot, because apparently he's going right to the top, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't know anything about the guy 3 months ago, but his brother's also on the card, Carol Itauma as well, an undefeated fighter who's a light heavyweight. He boxes here for the WBC International Light Heavyweight title, which is currently vacant. He's in a 10-rounder here against Ezekiel Moderna, who's 28-10. Itauma, like I say, 9-0 undefeated. What else should we go to on this undercard? It's not a tremendous undercard, to be totally honest with you, but obviously we don't care too much. It's all about the main event. I will go on to this other fight here. I just was taking a quick look at Moderna's record because his name does ring a bell. I think... okay, it rings a massive bell. Yeah, he's been in there with Edwin Rodriguez, been in there with Artur Beterbiev, been in there with Thomas Oosthuizen, been in there with a couple of other guys as well. Fedor Chudanov, Jose Uzcategui. So yeah, been around the block, but it's a good step up really for Carol Itauma, who hasn't really boxed anyone of note just yet anyway. So I'm a fan of that fight. I think that's decent there for Carol Itauma. But moving up the card once again, we're going to see Artem Dalakian. He is 21-0. He's defending his WBA flyweight world title. He's been massively inactive, I think, in recent years, if I'm not mistaken. I remember him being a champion years ago, and I don't think he's undefeated, so he didn't lose his belt or anything, but he's been champion, if I'm not mistaken, since about 2013 I was going to say 2017 or something like that. I think maybe 2018. But yeah, been massively inactive. But anyway, he gets in the ring here, 21-0. He gets in with the undefeated 12-0 David Jimenez. Again, that's for the WBA flyweight world title. But all eyes now to the main event. Artur Beterbiev, 18-0, defending his IBF, WBC, and WBO light heavyweight world titles against the UK's very own, the beast from the east, Mr. Anthony Yarde, 23-2. It's a great fight. It's a great fight. I was discussing this fight earlier on this week. There's a lot of talking points, and I don't want to go in too deep on it because, I want to just get through the show at this point. But without babbling on for too long, Anthony Yarde, some people would say has a puncher's chance, but in my eyes, I think he's got more than a puncher's chance, because I don't think Anthony Yarde is just this one punch banger that has nothing else apart from power. I think he's a good boxer. I think he is, his defense is a lot better than he gets credit for. I think his chin is a lot better than it gets credit for. There was talk at one point in the UK, a lot of people really stupidly believed it, and still to this day actually believe it. Anthony Yarde's team come out and said he doesn't spar. And everyone said, wow, he doesn't spar. That's crazy, he doesn't spar. And I swear, to this day, people still believe that because the team come out and said it sarcastically. But for some reason, most people didn't get it. And most people still, to this day, think he doesn't spar. Well, sorry to blast those rumours out the park. I've been in person and seen him spar. So there you go. He does spar. And there were rumours that the people that he spars are all really light punchers, which is also an absolute load of rubbish. And the reason why they were all light punches is because he doesn't have a good chin. And when he fights Kovalev, he's going to get knocked out in a round. We saw in that fight that he's got an excellent chin. In the end, of course, he was stopped, but I think it was pretty much off of exhaustion. And at that point in Kovalev's career, by the way, I know it was the fight before he got knocked out by Canelo, but at that point, even though he was up there in age, not many people were going 11 rounds with Sergey Kovalev, by the way. Certainly, from a guy who had the little experience that Anthony Yarde had at that point. I think Anthony Yarde only had, 11 amateur fights, Gets in with Kovalev in what was his, 16th pro fight. I feel like I'm going in too much detail here. But anyways, he's better than he was against Kovalev, I think. Obviously lost the one fight to Lyndon Arthur on points. Very close fight over 12 rounds. Come back, ran Arthur over, let's be honest. I like Arthur, but he got steamrolled in that second fight. And now he finds himself in against Beterbiev, who at this point is 38 years of age, just turned recently. He has, I think, shown some signs of slowing down. I've been watching all of his fights, all of his recent fights, and I don't think he's that same fighter he once was. And obviously Father Time is undefeated, still has that 100% knockout streak going, which is just amazing, to be honest with you. But I look back at his last fights, and I'm gonna, like I say, really try and be brief with this, but Joe Smith Jr. in the last fight he had, Joe Smith just went at him head on, which I really respect. He didn't try and box like we've seen a lot of other guys do. He just ran at him to try and, fight him straight away. It worked out horrendously. He was knocked out in 2 rounds, Joe Smith, poor Joe Smith. But it was fun. And because, like I say, he pretty much played into Beterbiev's hands, unfortunately. It could have gone well for him, but I think he thought, right, I'm going to take a beat in here over 12 rounds and then end up maybe getting stopped late on after a hell of a lot of beat down rounds, or I can just go and give it my all and win or lose, just go for it pretty much. And that was what I think Joe Smith thought his best chances were, and it didn't work out for him. But like I say, he ended up not taking loads of punishment. The fight before that was the fight with Marcus Brown, in which obviously he did end up getting Marcus Brown out of there late on, and he had that horrendous cut he suffered, by the way. But he didn't impress me massively in that fight up until he got Brown out of there with the blood that was gushing out of his face literally every 5 seconds. It was quite impressive in the end, but I was pretty much impressed by him getting the knockout while he was covered in blood. rather than his actual rounds in the fight and the way he was fighting that night. I think Brown posed a lot of problems, and I actually saw it coming. I actually said, I think Brown's going to give him a lot of problems, and I think he did. And obviously, we then go back to, I think it was this one here when he boxed, I think it was Adam Daines. That one, I think, was quite a close fight till he got him out really late as well. So Beterbiev has actually gone, aside from that Joe Smith fight where Joe Smith met him head on, the previous fights before that, 9 rounds, 10 rounds, 10 rounds. You know? And then you've got to go back to early parts of 2019 and before that, where he started getting people out early again. And those were when he was younger, and those were guys that probably aren't on the level of your Browns, your Smiths, your Anthony Yardes. So I think there's a mixture of different things here working against Artur Beterbiev. I think the age is a factor. I think he's slowed down. I think he's still a brilliant fighter, of course, but I think the age is a factor. I think he's slowed down. I think the fact that he's coming to the UK here, giving Anthony Yarde the home advantage. We know the crowd's going to be there for Anthony Yarde. It's all in Anthony Yarde's favour. He's now got the experience that he didn't have when he went into the Kovalev fight. I think, Eddie, and I said I wouldn't go into massive detail, and I've lied pretty much and gone into loads. Some of it was probably completely irrelevant, but what I'm trying to get at here is I think Anthony Yarde's got much more than a puncher's chance, but I don't think that the fight goes the distance, because both men, the power is very real, both men, and I cannot see it going the distance. I think we're going to probably get a shootout, and I'll be quite surprised if it even goes past 6 rounds, but while it lasts, we are not going to be able to blink. I think it's going to be a brilliant, brilliant fight, and someone is going to sleep.
Yeah, Joe. I think you had to go into detail because there's so many little wrinkles about the fight that, you can go into and you can say, especially with Anthony Yarde. I think judging Anthony Yarde, most people judge Anthony Yarde based on that performance with Kovalev and how he may perform in this fight here. And I think recently, like you said, he's been in better form. Like the second fight he had with Lyndon Arthur, I've seen he actually looked good. He has, and I noticed this from before. He's not a non-skilled guy. He actually has boxing ability. He's not just a banger. He's not just a puncher. He doesn't just have a puncher's chance. I 100% agree with that. But in a fight like this, if he can't hurt Beterbiev, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult because Beterbiev has a good amateur background. He has a good understanding of boxing. You understand what I'm saying? A good IQ. It's not like he's just because he got the great chin and he comes forward a lot. It's not like he doesn't have little wrinkles to that too. He knows how to land certain shots. He knows how to put you and cut the ring off. And even there's been times he hasn't done that well, but he has the ability to. And I think in a fight like this, as dangerous as Anthony Yarde is, and he's going to have to be on his A game. You know what I mean? It's just not. He's not going to just be able to walk in there and just run through him. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think it's going to look a lot better than people think. I don't think it's not going to be no wild affair. It's not going to be no blood and guts. I think there's going to be a good amount of skill involved. It's just two guys, two alphas, two bulls coming together and locking horns. I just think that it depends on the guy on the night. Who's the better boxer. You know what I mean? I think who's the better boxer, who has the better IQ. I think that will be the difference because they're going to come together. But the one that's going to win that firefight is going to be the one that can land the punches they need to land in the right spots. And I think I'm going to obviously lean a little more toward Beterbiev, but can't sleep on Anthony Yarde. Kid can punch, kid can box. He showed the ability to come in and adjust with the fight with Lyndon Arthur, the second one. Even though it took another whole fight, he still went in there with the right attitude and the right game plan and executed. So I'm really, really, really looking forward to this fight. And I think a lot of people should be looking forward to this fight. It's the kind of fight that they're not going to be going to have to look for each other, for one. So you're not going to see a whole lot of unnecessary movement for the most part. I mean, we never know on the night. You know, it could be somebody's game plan that, you know, may change. But I think, especially for Anthony Yarde, he has to go in and put something on Beterbiev to get respect, so that he could, if he needed to box or needed to do whatever, so that he can get the space to do that. You know what I mean? If he wants space at all. So it's a great upcoming fight. I can't wait to see it. I really will be disappointed if I wasn't able to be in the house to watch that, because I'm really, really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fireworks. It's going to be an absolute cracker. And, yeah, I of course have to lean towards Beterbiev. How can you not, you know? Beterbiev hasn't really shown much weaknesses, even though I say he's slowing down, he's taking longer to get guys out of there, he's struggling with guys that he perhaps would have blasted out a couple years before. You know, it's not like I'm saying he's finished. He hasn't really proven that he's so old that he's not capable of still knocking out everyone. It's like, because he's knocked out everyone, what I'm saying almost holds very little weight. It's like if we compare it to Golovkin, there was a stage where Golovkin was knocking everyone out. Then he stopped and he started going the distance with guys. Then he started, you know, his punch output was dropping in fights. Then he started losing. Then he started having some close fights. And basically you can say, okay, it's official. He is over the hill, man. He's on the way down. Beterbiev hasn't quite shown that many slips yet, but I'm just saying from from what I can see, I feel like he's slipped a tiny bit. I don't know if it's enough where he's not going to win the fight. I still think that he's the favourite, and rightly so. And if I had to put my money on someone, I'd go with him. But I'm just saying, all the chips are stacked in Anthony Yarde's favour, with the home advantage, with the age, with the fact that, in my opinion, just my opinion, he slipped the smallest little bit. I just don't know if it's a big enough slip for Anthony Yarde to be able to capitalise in that way and to win the fight.
Agreed. I like that answer. It's to me, if there is a slippage, I mean, obviously him not just running through people, if you know, from what he's done in the past, I mean, he still got the 100% knockout ratio, like you said, but I see what you mean. And, you know, going the distance with, not the distance, because he actually, but going the distances he has to have to get rid of some of these guys. And like you said, in some cases, you would have thought that he would have ran through them in a lot quicker and a lot, you know, more exciting fashion early on. But, you know, maybe these fighters were better than we thought and than we expected. You know what I mean? That's something we got to take into consideration. And also, like you said, you know, age does play a part, no matter how much you want to deny it or ignore it. Looking at Triple G, like you mentioned, you could see that he was starting to deteriorate. There were certain things that didn't happen as easy for him, and you know, I could see that being a similar factor with Beterbiev. But as it goes, still got to go with him. He looks like, you know, it's the fight. It's his fight. I hate to say it, but it's his fight to lose. I mean, don't get me wrong. Anthony Yarde is not somebody you're going to look past, or, you know, it's not. This is a fight that is an underrated fight that people should have been looking forward to and clamoring for a while. This is a fight that I was like, wow, I don't even think about it, I don't think. And then when it was made, I mean, we probably talked about it briefly, but then when it was made, it's like, yo, this is an excellent fight to put together. So, you know, you can't just look past Anthony Yarde, but if you're forced to pick a winner, smart money would have to be with Beterbiev. Good fight. It's a great fight. Anthony Yarde's a good young guy, and he has a future. Has a lot of things in his favor, but still got to get in the ring. And I think with that being the biggest part of it, you can have your home field advantage all day long, and none of them can fight for you. So. You got to go with the top guy at this time, and I'm going to go with Beterbiev, but it's going to be one hell of a fight. And I wouldn't be super duper surprised to see Anthony Yarde do something spectacular or special that night.
We'll see. Not long to wait now, but like I say, I'm 100% sure that this does not go the distance. I cannot say it enough times. Do not blink. It's going to be exciting while it lasts. Anthony Yarde, as we know, always comes to go for the knockout. There's no surprises. He's not going to suddenly start jabbing and moving. We're not going to see that from this guy. He's coming to knock out Beterbiev. Beterbiev, I think, is coming to knock out Anthony Yarde. Do not miss it. It's going to be unbelievable while it lasts. It's going to be so exciting. Cannot wait for Saturday now. Not long to go. Oh boy, getting super excited just talking about it, man. It's a great fight. All the best, of course, to Anthony Yarde, friend of the show. I'd love to see him become Britain's next world champion. And wow, oh my goodness, if he were to win this fight, he'd have 3 of the major titles. The only one he'd be missing is the WBA. Wow, and he'd be probably getting a Bivol fight, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's going to be unbelievable on Saturday night. Do not miss it. But that brings the preview part to a close. In part 1 we did the review part, then we welcomed our special guest. In part 2 we did the news, and we've just wrapped up the preview part there. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 380 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A huge thank you to this week's special guest, the former WBO Global Welterweight Champion, Mr. Chris Kongo. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. Once again, thank you all for tuning into this week's show. If you do have a spare 1 or 2 minutes, please leave us a review on iTunes. We love those reviews on iTunes. Please leave us one if you do have the time. It really does mean a lot. That's about everything from myself, though. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.